Today on the Bane Says podcast, I'll be discussing how I am not a nihilist, I'll be issuing a big correction to my big mistake from last week, and a whole bunch of other stuff, so go ahead and stick around. I don't know what to do with my hands. There really does seem to be a shortage of YouTube and creator news because, again, I have nothing to talk about, so before I go into a rant, I will talk about what I have been testing, and you have been listening to it. I'm on the Electro Voice RE20. I am not running directly into the Rodecaster Pro 2 today. I am going analog, partially analog. I am running into the Universal Audio LA610 Mark II, no EQ, little bit of a limiter. I'm getting maybe 1 dB of gain reduction, so not doing much there. And then I am running line level into the Rodecaster Pro, and I am not doing any kind of processing there. I just want to see how the RCP2 handles line level, and as far as why I'm using the RE20, I have to throw some chum and some blood in the water for all the RE20 fanboys. I can't just use the SM7B and say, oh, I love it so much, it's my favorite. I need to get the sharks a-stirring in the water beneath this podcast. I'm on the RE20, and I like the SM7B better. There you go. That should tick some people off. That's what I've been testing. Let me know what you think of this. Do you like the LA610 Mark II? And it seems as though the RCP2 is handling line level very well. Why am I yelling? I don't know. It's how I talk all the time. Now I want to get into my rant. I want to address the topic that I mentioned first, how I am not a nihilist. I essentially want to address my attitude as of late because recently I have found myself saying, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? No big deal. Who cares? I've been saying that a lot recently, and I think that can be misunderstood, and maybe even has been misunderstood as something much more negative. I think it may have been misunderstood as nothing matters, and that is far from the truth. That is not what I am getting at. That's not the view that I hold. I am not a nihilist. I think plenty of stuff matters. I want to explain my thought process here so you can leave this show without a bad taste in your mouth, without thinking, oh, Bandrew's telling me that nothing matters. Maybe nothing does matter. Why do I get out of bed in the morning? I don't want you leaving this show thinking that. So I want to explain myself. Now, how am I going to explain myself? I saw a tweet that I want to share with you. Bad start. It's about to get worse. That tweet was from Elon Musk. And I know 75, maybe 95% of you just groaned, ugh, Elon Musk. Gosh, I can't stand this guy. I get it. But this tweet encapsulates a lot of how I view the world now, or my new outlook on the world. If you are just listening, I will describe it to you. If you're watching, you will see the photo on screen. There are two people sitting on a bus or a train. One of them is looking at a dark mountain and pouting and looking sad, saying, "It's out of my control." Then the other person on the bus or train is looking out the opposite side of the window over a very bright desert where the sun is shining. They have a massive smile on their face and they're saying, "It's out of my control." Now, this doesn't perfectly encapsulate my outlook on the world because I am not thrilled that certain things are out of my control. I am not thrilled that the value of the dollars that I have saved up are being devalued and I have no power over that. However, what I do have control over is my outlook on these events. I could allow all of these negative things going on around me, my dollar being devalued, my inability to buy a home, my YouTube channel being taken away from me for 48 hours, 24 hours, I don't even know how long it was anymore. I could be a full-on doomer and say, oh gosh, I can't believe this is the worst thing ever, it's out of my control. Or I could say, I've done everything I can. Let's see what I can control. And that's where it differs, because I'm not necessarily thrilled that it is out of my control, but I am willing to say, well, I'm not going to let that have a negative impact on my day-to-day life. I'm not going to allow things that are out of my control to have a negative impact on my emotional state. And instead of being a doomer and thinking nothing matters or kicking rocks and saying, oh, heckin' jeez and shooting butts and stuff, I can't buy a home, I'm going to think, okay, I can't buy a home. That's just the state of things. What can I do to resolve this issue? Because this is a state that I am not thrilled with. What can I do to resolve that? I can save more. Okay, that's pretty easy to do. Just save, well, maybe not easy anymore, but you can try to do that. You could try to hedge against inflation. I've tried, not been very effective. You'd think, oh, precious metals, that'd be a good thing to hedge against inflation. Nope. So I have had very bad luck with my very basic and very minimal attempts at hedging, but I look at the things that are in my control as opposed to the things out of my control because I don't want other people's actions to have massive impacts over my life, over my day-to-day well-being. And I know it sounds a little bit hippy-dippy saying, oh, I don't want other people to have an impact over my emotional state, my emotional well-being, but it's so easy to allow other people's actions with printing of money, devaluing of currency, inflating the market, pumping and dumping cryptocurrency, whatever it may be that has a negative impact on you in one aspect of your life. It's easy to allow that to have a negative impact on other parts of your life and put you in a crappy mood, and then you're mean to people around you. I have been trying to avoid that. So instead of going doomer, I just say, who cares? It's out of my control. If it's something in my control, I'll say, okay, well, what can I do to rectify the issue? So I wanted to address that and explain that because I don't want people thinking that I have gone black-pilled. I think that's the correct term for doomer or nihilist. I am not a nihilist. I think the world's wonderful. Does it have its faults? Absolutely. Does it have people who are evil who seem to just be trying to ruin the world? Sure, absolutely. Do I have any control over that? No, I don't. And you may be thinking, just look at that privileged guy sitting in his bedroom talking into a microphone. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm just sharing my outlook on the world. And if you want to hate me because of it, more power to you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Now, something else that I did. This may have been a mistake. Never read replies on Twitter. But I was curious to see what people were saying to Elon in replies to that tweet. I was guessing that the vast majority would be, oh, look at you from your ivory tower, you privileged billionaire, shut up. I didn't see any of that. What I did see was about 500,000 cryptocurrency scams, and amidst all of those cryptocurrency scams, those pump and dump schemes, I saw one tweet that stood out to me, and I thought it was really interesting. So I want to go ahead and share this with you. This is a page from a book that somebody posted a picture of. The book is apparently called The Daily Stoic. If you're watching, you will see this on screen. If you are just listening, I will read it to you now. This is for an entry in the book titled The Enemy of Happiness, and it starts with a quote that says, "It is quite impossible to unite happiness with a yearning for what we don't have. Happiness has all that it wants, and resembling the well-fed, there shouldn't be hunger or thirst." Epictetus, Discourses 3:24-17. And then it goes on to explain the quote in more modern terms, and it says, "I'll be happy when I graduate. We tell ourselves, I'll be happy when I get this promotion, when this diet pays off, when I have the money that my parents never had. Conditional happiness is what psychologists call this kind of thinking. Like the horizon, you can walk for miles and miles and never reach it. You won't even get any closer. Eagerly anticipating some future event, passionately imagining something you desire, looking forward to some happy scenario. As pleasurable as these activities might seem, they ruin your chance at happiness here and now. Locate that yearning for more, better, someday, and see it for what it is, the enemy of your contentment. Choose it or your happiness. As Epictetus says, the two are not compatible. Now, obviously, this is less about the entire idea of not allowing things out of your control to impact your happiness or your mental well-being. This is about appreciating what you do have. And I know that I struggle with this a lot, but I think this is really good advice. And this is just something that I saw and said, wow, that was actually something positive on Twitter. I like this idea. I like this idea because it kind of does tie in with what I was talking about earlier. I have been complaining, I can't buy a house. That would be some kind of stretch goal that I have, to put it in what Kickstarter terms. It's a stretch goal that I have. I want to own a home. And that could put me in a terrible mood. I can't buy a home, but what I could do is appreciate the fact that I have a nice home to live in right now. I may not own it, but I have a roof over my head. I have plenty of microphones to play with. I have the ability to talk to people on the internet like a crazy person, like I'm going to be crucified in the 1600s for speaking to Satan through a black piece of glass. I could be thrilled about that instead of being upset or depressed or angry at the fact that I can't accomplish X, Y, or Z. Instead of being depressed about the fact that my YouTube growth is declining, I could just say, wow, I have accomplished amazing things on YouTube. I have over 200,000 subscribers on my main channel. That is amazing. I should be proud of that. And that's something that I know I struggle with, and I know a lot of people struggle with, because instead of appreciating what you have and what you've accomplished, as soon as you meet a goal, you just set another one. So you always have that desire to accomplish more, and you very rarely, if ever, take the time to sit down and say, wow, good job. You did something great there. Well done. And pat yourself on the back. Or in my case, pat myself on the neck. That's very uncomfortable. Don't pat yourself on the neck. That's something that you got positive out of this show. I gave you great advice. Don't pat yourself on the neck because it stings. That's my rant. I just wanted to get that out there and share that little piece of advice with you. I don't know what stoicism is, but that's interesting to me. I think I'm going to look into this. I don't want to be one of those obnoxious philosophers. I'm gonna have to come up with a different term for philosophizing. Yes, jeez Louise. It's Friday evening. So I'm not going to worry about mispronouncing. I do not want to become one of those awful philosophizers who post all these inspiring quotes on Twitter or has an entire podcast about that. I just wanted to explain myself, and I saw something that I thought was fun and wanted to share that with you. Okay, now let us jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Justin Carrasco, and he says, I vote that we change the past tense of wing it to wung it. Justin, thank you very much for your support on this movement. I would like to amend it, though. I do not want to only adjust the past tense of wing it. I also want to adjust the past tense of banged. So I want it to be wung it, wung it, and I want it to be bung it. So now it could be, I bung on the door, but nobody answered. I like bung, and that sounded so gross. I'm having too much fun with this podcast. This podcast should not be allowed. I like the term bung and wung. So we are going to change it, the past tense, for banged and wing it to bung it and wung it. I don't know what I'm talking about. This show is off the rails. The next comment comes from Armin Talabi. He says, what is your mic arm? Armin, thank you very much for the comment. I have a number of microphone arms. If I am just using a basic XLR microphone, I will use the Yellowtech Mica. I don't know what model number this is, but as you could hear, the RE20, I'm using the firm mount for it, so it does terrible at any kind of shock rejection. If I just touch the boom arm, it just transfers right into the microphone. But the reason I use this for XLR microphones is because it has an inbuilt XLR cable. I find that very convenient. XLR cable in, runs through the microphone arm, out the back into my preamp or my interface. If I am using an extremely heavy XLR microphone because the Yellowtech doesn't do well with 2-3 pound microphones. Do I have any 3-pound microphones? Extremely heavy microphones. It doesn't do well with those. If that's the case, I will use what is this one? The OC White Ultima Low Profile Gen 2. Gen 2 is very important because I have Gen 1. Gen 1 is kind of a sloppy mess. Not worth the money. It just hangs down and it's very floppy. And for the price that it cost, I was very disappointed in it. Gen 2, absolutely incredibly built. And this has channels for the cables. So I will use this for tube microphones because you can't just use a basic XLR cable. It typically has 7, 8, 9 pin cables. So I will run the cable through that. Or if I am using a heavy XLR cable, and that is the one that you will see sitting on my desk. So those are the two microphone arms, and then if you're talking about the microphone arms that I use for my reviews, I don't even know what it is. Let's see if we can find anything. I don't see anything on it. It's linked, Lix Pro. It's a Lix Pro because I wanted to use an affordable arm for my reviews that has the external springs because that's what a lot of people end up getting. More of a real world scenario. People aren't going to use a $300 boom arm when they're setting up a $50 microphone. So this is just to level the playing field, kind of the same way or for the same reason why I use the Focusrite 18i20. It doesn't give the microphone any kind of massive benefit, but it doesn't damage the audio. It's perfectly middle of the road, inoffensive, and I think not the 18i20, the 2i2 or the Solo is the best-selling interface of all time, or maybe over the last couple of years. I don't know the exact figure. So it gives the most people the most accurate representation of what they would get because the most people have the Focusrite Scarlett Pres. So running through the Scarlett Pres tells people or shows them how the microphone would sound through their interfaces. And that's why I use the Lix Pro. Not the best-selling boom arm, but a similar style boom arm. There you go. Next comment comes from Mixanyar, and they say, "Hey Bandrew, I need to choose an audio interface, and I want you to help me, bro. I'm gonna buy some recording stuff tomorrow, and the mic I selected is the Lewitt LCT540S. I want to know if the Audient ID4 Mark II can drive it good, clean, and without any coloration. The reason I choose the 540 is the fact that it's a noiseless microphone, and I really trying to understand that. Can the ID4 be a good friend for the 540S? Thank you, dear Bandy." Mixanyar, thank you very much for the comment. To quickly answer your question, yes, those would be a good pairing because it sounds like the goal you're going for is low noise with minimal coloration. First, let's look at the microphone. This is the LCT540S. It has an incredibly loud output, negative 28 dBV. That's a very loud output, and an equivalent noise level or a self noise of 4 dBA. That might be the quietest condenser microphone I have ever seen in terms of noise, because the NT1 was 5 dBA, right? 5 dBA or 6.5. 4 dBA is bonkers. Then we get to the interface. The interface, the ID4 Mark II, has an EIN of negative 129 dBA weighted. No issues. You are not going to have any hiss from the microphone. I shouldn't say you are not going to. You should not have any hiss from the microphone because that is a self noise of 4 dBA, and you are not going to be driving your preamp hard because you don't need to with an output of negative 28 dBV. So yeah, the noise floor of the preamp will not come into play at all. Sounds like you should be golden. Normally with condenser microphones, the EIN of a preamp isn't going to be a big factor unless you have an incredibly quiet condenser microphone like the Lauten Audio LS508? Whatever Lauten Audio's broadcast condenser is, I am pretty sure the Neumann condensers also have a very low output for condensers. The Neumanns also, if I'm not mistaken, have a high self-noise, a lot higher than 4 dBA. So you should be fine. And there you go. Hopefully that answered your question, although you said you were going to be buying it tomorrow, and you left that comment 4 days ago, so you probably already have all of this stuff. Let us know what you think of it in the comments on the YouTube video. Now let's jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Welcome back to the Ask Bandrew segment, the section where you ask me question, I answer. I answer a question that you sent in. If you want to ask a question, go to askbandrew.com. There are instructions on how to send in audio, video, and text-based questions. I know people are going to be furious with me over my microphone technique this entire episode. I don't care. I'm just totally loosey-gooseying this entire episode. AskBandrew.com, instructions on how to send in audio, video, and text-based questions. I do prefer audio and video, sub 1 minute, because then we get to hear from you. You don't have to listen to me read. It's amazing. We got a bunch of submissions last week. We're going to stick to the 3 per episode. So first up, we have a video submission from Eldest Bro. Take it away, Eldest Bro.
Greetings, Bandrew. It is I, the Eldest Bro, and I have a question for you. Yes or no?
All right, to reiterate the question, Eldest Bro asked me, yes or no. I get it. It's a funny, haha question. There's no context. He. I'm going to give you an answer, though. I actually sat down and thought about this, yes or no. The answer I'm going to give to you is yes. The reason I am giving you the answer yes is, for years at this point, I have lived very comfortably. I have avoided situations that make me uncomfortable, that are outside of my comfort zone, things that I don't think I will like, things that are in large crowds, things that require me to travel in busy places. Any of those things, I would just say, no, I'm not going to do it. No, not going to do it. So my answer is yes, because I think it's about time I just stop being a little baby and say, sure, yeah, I'll go on that trip, whatever, let's give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? There's a lot bad that can happen, but let's not think about that. Sure, the answer is yes. So you may be seeing me say yes to more things, assuming what you're asking me is not illegal. I'm not going to take part in any of your illegal behavior. Get out of here, you criminals. I will not take part in whatever it is you're asking. No, pass. But for the fun stuff, and assuming it's not creepy either, I don't want to take part in any of the creepy stuff. Maybe. I'll say maybe for most people. I'm changing it to maybe. I don't want to open myself up to that. Maybe. Probably not. Jeez. See, I'm already backpedaling and just saying no. No, just no. The answer's no now, Eldest. Next, we have a voice submission from Josh Liston. Take it away, Joshua Liston.
Hey, Bandrew, Josh here from On the Bubble podcast, which is on the Gunner Geek Network. Not really a question so much as a comment. I think that unknown caller in one of your most recent episodes who was having trouble with changing microphones on Discord and in Audacity was maybe asking a slightly different question to the way you interpreted that. I think what they wanted to know was they can hear a massive difference between their old USB mic and their new, better Behringer setup when recording in Audacity. That to them sounded obvious. But when they're using Discord, people on the other end can't hear any discernible difference between the old, crappier setup, for the lack of a better term, and the new, better setup. So I'm sure with all the information you gave, you answered that anyway, but I just wanted to clarify that maybe what they were asking wasn't exactly the question that you thought it was. Righto, cheers, Bandrew. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Josh, thank you very much for the voice submission. I appreciate you correcting me, and I think you are exactly right. I was planning on talking about this earlier because I noticed this afterwards because I got called out on it in my Discord server. Plenty of comments about it. But the reason I didn't discuss this earlier is because I wanted an excuse to leave in Josh's voice submission. Because Josh is just a mad lad and a legend. Top bloke. Is that an Aussie saying? He's a top bloke. I don't know. Anyway, let me go ahead and now jump into my prepared response to unnamed individual. Here is my correction to unnamed individual. It was pointed out to me that what was actually meant by the voice submission is he recorded his old US... I'm not going to read the entire thing like that. That would be terrible. It was pointed out to me that what he meant when he recorded his old USB microphone and his new XLR microphone in Audacity, he heard a massive difference between those two microphones. Good. That's perfect. That's what you want. But then, when he goes into Discord and switches between his USB microphone and his XLR microphone, the people on the call do not recognize it. They cannot tell a difference. They don't notice the big difference that he notices in Audacity. First thing I want to say is, clearly, I am an idiot. Clearly, I am an idiot because it was obviously what you were asking. How did I not get that? Even when I do preparation for shows, I don't get it right. We're all allowed mistakes. We're all allowed to make mistakes. Luckily, it wasn't a big mistake. I didn't tell him to go buy a yacht or anything to solve his problems. So let me go ahead and walk you through some advice that I think might help. A lot of this stuff is kind of similar. Actually, only one of the things is similar. I don't know why I said a lot of the things. Number one, make sure your Discord's audio processing is off. That means going into settings, voice settings, and turn off echo cancellation and noise suppression. And then, like I said last week, make sure that, what is it called? Crisp. Whatever the crisp thing is, turn that off as well. The second thing that you need to consider is your friend's playback system. So you may have an amazing upgrade to your audio, but if they are just listening through the speakers on their cell phone, they're not going to have the ability to recreate all those subtle details in the new microphone. They're not going to be able to actually recreate that in the real world through their speakers. If they're listening on crappy gaming headsets with terrible headphone quality, they won't be able to tell the difference because it all just likely sounds like a muddy mess. So that's something else to consider. They may not hear it, but maybe it's because their playback systems won't allow them to hear it. The third thing to consider, maybe your friends haven't trained their ears. It sounds as though you have spent a lot of time listening to gear, trying to determine what you like, what you dislike, and find the right microphone for you. Through all of that listening, you've trained your ear to pick up on certain frequencies, to understand or notice the differences in sound quality from microphone to microphone. If your friends don't know anything about microphones, they don't care about microphones, they may not be able to actually tell the difference. Before I started playing music, I couldn't pick out a guitar line to save my life. I couldn't pick out a guitar line to play my life. Hopefully I don't have to play something to save my life because I will be dead. But I could not identify just an individual line of the music and play it on the guitar. But after playing guitar for 20 years, I know I don't sound like I've been playing for 20 years, but after playing for that long, I'm able to listen to a song, identify the individual line, and be able to play that. So through that ear training over decades, I am now able to do that. Just like you, over months, over years, listening to microphone, that trains your ears to pick up on those different frequencies, to pick up on the subtle differences from microphone to microphone. If your friends haven't put in the time, if they don't care, they may not notice. And the last thing that I want to point out is as long as you notice the upgrade, as long as you are happy with the way that your audio sounds, that's all that matters. I pointed this out in one of my podcastage videos. I don't remember which one, but it was that once you hit a certain level, your audience doesn't care, so you shouldn't be upgrading to impress them. They won't tell the difference, so don't spend thousands of dollars to impress them with this amazing difference in audio quality. They just won't care. But as long as you're happy with it, and as long as you haven't overextended yourself to get that gear, I think you're in the best place. You're thrilled with how your microphone sounds. You got the gear that you want. Rock and roll, man. Rock and roll. Unnamed individual. Okay, that is it in terms of my correction. Now let us jump to the final voice submission. We have another unnamed submitter. Take it away, unnamed submitter.
Bandrew, have you had any issues with audio bleed through from your headphones? I noticed that you like to wear the Sennheiser headphones that are open back, and I'm looking at some Beyerdynamic DT990 Pro, which I was able to try them out, and I think they sound great, but should I worry about my microphone capturing audio that bleeds out from those headphones, or is it not really an issue?
Unnamed individual, thank you very much for the voice submission, and I have and have not. I do have one big issue with bleed. That is when I am recording songs and I have the metronome playing excruciatingly loud because I have the metronome in Logic Pro turned up 20 dB. It's just the loudest thing. It's over every single instrument by an order of 2x. Maybe not 2x, it's not that bad, but it's really loud. When I'm recording music and I have the microphone on the acoustic for a full mix, then yes, I get bleed of the metronome into the microphone. That's a unique situation. If you're not using a very loud click track, or if I am not using a really loud click track, I do not have that issue. If you want to hear that, go watch almost any review, because when I'm doing the voice section of it, this is how far I am away from a microphone typically. I'm typically about 4 or 5 inches away. And while I'm recording, I have a click track going in my headphones because I have a bunch of guitar takes. I do the guitar take and I duplicate it over and over again and do 5, 6, 7 vocal takes to try to get one that I'm okay with. That's the secret sauce. I just do it over and over and over again until it's not, I won't say it's not bad. It's the least bad. That's how I approach it. And I have all of that to a click track so I know when to come in. And I do have that issue. For podcasting, I have never had that issue because I am just a loner sitting in a bedroom talking into a microphone with no other sound sources playing through my headphones. So because of that, there's very little chance of bleed occurring because the only thing that I'm monitoring is zero latency monitoring. So I hear my voice a millisecond off, maybe, and the chances of my headphones bleeding audio into the microphone that is louder than my voice to make it obvious is, I would say, impossible. It's impossible unless even if I turn, I doubt that would happen. But to test this out, actually, I want to point out something else. Another reason, I don't monitor very loudly. I will initially just to make sure everything's sounding good, and then I'll just roll it back because I don't need to hear excruciating level the entire time that I'm recording. I know what I sound like. I do like hearing it a little bit because that will allow me to make sure that I'm not swallowing really loudly or popping or clipping the microphone. So I do monitor quietly. I don't have any sound sources other than my voice. So I want to do a test here for you because I don't have people talking. I will just play some music. This is a song that I made. Must Love Karate is my pretend band. And this is Everybody Wants to Be Every Time I Die. All right, now I have the music coming out of the universal audio. I've set my headphone level to a level that I would monitor at. And I have made sure that I have muted my studio monitors because I just did this and I was looking at the meters thinking, oh my gosh, that's picking up a lot of bleed. Obviously, because it's playing out of the studio monitors right into the heckin' microphone, you dummy. I've fixed that. Now I'm just going to play this and see if it gets picked up by the microphone. I'm not seeing much movement on the meter. Let me actually rotate so my headphone is pointed right at the mic. Okay, now I am going to push this to an uncomfortable level for me. That's about the loudest I would ever monitor. That's too loud to monitor. And I will push it to more of an uncomfortable listening level. Okay. Is that coming through the microphone? Let me go ahead and... So there you go. That is the test that I have for you, just playing loud music through my open back headphones to see if the RE20 picks it up. Obviously, that will not be 100% indicative of what you will experience because it will depend on how loud you monitor, what's going through your headphones while you're recording, many other things, your microphone placement, the microphone selection, all of that will play into it. But yeah, there you go. The only situation where I have had issues with bleed is with a metronome, because I blast the metronome in my headphones because I don't have the best timing. And I want to force myself to hear the click, 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 click. All right, I think that's going to wrap up. I don't have a movie of the week. I haven't watched many movies. Actually, I will say I don't have the DVD in here like normal. The History of the World Part 1. I had never seen that. Just watched that. History of the World Part 1 by Mel Brooks, 1981. Really hilarious movie. Totally holds up. Really funny stuff. If you haven't seen it and you want a Mel Brooks comedy going from the Stone Age to the Roman Empire to Jesus to the Spanish Inquisition, and then what does it end with? The French Revolution. If you want to see all of those through the lens of Mel Brooks being him wacky self, go watch it. Really worth the great way to spend an hour and a half. I loved it. Really fun movie. All right. Now that is all that now that is the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know why I'm quoting is that Anchorman. I don't know why that's in my head. I appreciate you being here. I know this was a wacky one. This was a loosey-goosey episode. My mic technique was all over the place. I talked about my outlook on the world. What? Slow tech news, slow creator news, not much to talk about. So that's what you get. Me explaining that I am not a nihilist. I hope that was enjoyable for you, though. I hope you enjoyed your time. I appreciate you spending your time with me. I am very grateful that you do choose to spend your time with me, goofing off, giggling like a bunch of schoolgirls. Tee-hee-hee-hee-hee. Listen to him. He sounds so stupid. He doesn't know that he's asking about the microphones sounding different. I get it. Laugh at me. That's fine. That's why I'm here. I'm a big old sad clown. But I'm not sad. I'm a happy clown. Actually, I don't want to be a clown at all. Can I not be a clown? Clowns in and of themselves are a little bit sad. Unless you're a clown. If you're a clown, I'm sure you're wonderful. I support clownery as long as you aren't going the John Wayne Gacy route. Yikes. All right, way off topic. This is why I should just stick to what's on the page, Bandrew. I mean, Bane. Stick to what's on the page, Bane. Don't you dare go off. Because we start talking about John Wayne Gacy. How did we get there? I don't know. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. I love you. You are the best. Have an amazing week. I will talk to you then, and I will go ahead and give you what is it? Whoa. Get out of the way. Boop.